Hey there, gearheads and tone chasers! Today we're diving into the electrifying world of PV amps, the American-made monsters that have been melting faces and capturing hearts for decades. Buckle up, because we're about to take a journey through time, tone, and pure rock and roll wizardry. The story of how PV became one of the largest amp and audio manufacturers in the world is one of humble beginnings and a reputation for quality, value, and innovation. As a guitar or bass player, you may have owned or played PV amps, since the company's catalog is affordable, diverse, and well distributed. Hartley Peavey started working in his father's music store, Peavey's Melody Music, in Meridian, Mississippi in 1957. Peavey's first dream was to be a rock and roll star, but when it became clear that this wasn't going to happen, he shifted direction to making amps. He soon began building bass and guitar amps and selling them out of his father's store. In 1959, during his senior year of high school, he designed his future company's logo, the world-famous Lightning Bolt Peavey logo. The first Peavey branded amplifier was actually produced in 1961, and it sported the same instantly recognizable logo that's used by the company today. In 1964, Hartley received his first patent, one of the 180 that the company now owns, for a 35-watt solid-state amplifier design. The prototypes used germanium transistors, but he swapped them out for silicon, which were much more durable and dependable. After graduating from Mississippi State in 1965, Hartley Peavey started his company above his father's music store, building amps one at a time. Peavey produced only two amplifiers, the Musician and Dynabass. Both models were high wattage, solid-state amplifiers that included simple features for the working musician. In 1968, he moved into Plant One, the first standalone production factory, which soon took up an entire city block. In 1969, the distinctive silver stripe design is born, after Hartley installs the grill frame onto a speaker cabinet backwards, with the aluminum mounting on the outside. He liked the look and kept it for future designs. In 1970, many country music stars were the first to fully embrace the Peavey sound. Artists such as Merle Haggard, Hank Williams Jr., and Mel Tillis were some of the many artists discovering Peavey amplification. In 1973, Peavey began development on a series of vintage Fender Twin-inspired amps with 6L6 power tubes and two 6C10 preamp tubes. These amps had a different sonic signature than the Twin and had their own unique sound. Since solid state was popular back in the 1970s, later versions capitalized on new technology which enabled the combination of solid-state preamps with tube power amps. Let's take a quick look at some of the bass amplifiers of the time. The TNT series bass amplifier first entered the market in the late 1970s as a 45-watt combo with one 15-inch speaker. The high-powered TNT bass amplifier series was introduced as a 150 to 200 watt bass combo, primarily equipped with a Scorpion or Black Widow 15-inch woofer. Shifting back to guitar, the Vintage series was the precursor to the now popular all-tube Classic series, which features an EL84 power section that effectively combines classic Vox and Fender-type tone, with solid-state amps becoming increasingly popular in the 70s and early 80s. Peavey developed what is arguably its most famous solid-state amp, the Bandit. Conceived in 1980, the Bandit has gone through many revisions, and Bandits are being produced today with Peavey's own trans-tube technology. This innovative feature emulates the sound and feel of a tube amp using solid-state power. Peavey accomplished this by modeling the overload characteristics of the amp and transformer, as well as emulating the sound of asymmetrically clipping tubes. The Bandit amp series are solid-state combo guitar amplifiers. The earliest models of Bandits had a power rating of 50 watts RMS into an 8-ohm speaker. The power rating has gradually increased over time, and current model Bandits are rated at 80 watts RMS into 8 ohms and 100 watts of RMS into 4 ohms. In the mid-1990s, the Bandit was used to introduce Peavy's proprietary trans-tube circuitry, a solid-state technology aimed at emulating the sound of tube amplifiers. When hair metal first became popular in the 80s, players required more gain for new playing techniques such as two-handed tapping and sweep picking. Marshall was ahead of the curve for this particular sound with the coveted JCM 800, but Peavey offered its take on that circuit with the Butcher and VTM series. Instead of Marshall's usual EL34 tubes, both series of Peavey amps used 6L6 power tubes, which yielded a darker sound and a less apparent upper mid presence. Many compared the VTM to a modified or hot-rodded JCM 800 and the Butcher to a normal JCM 800. But even though these amps may share similar tones, they're definitely their own characters. These amps are extremely versatile and can be bought for much less than comparable competitors. In the early 90s, more players began demanding even more gain, power, and options, and Peavey moved to the front of the pack with the 3-channel Ultra Plus. The Ultra Plus could cover most genres of music with its crisp, clean channel for country, crunch channel for rocks, cutting mid-range, and ultra channel for searing leads and metal riffs. Using an active EQ section, the user could boost or cut any frequency with precision and dial in their own tones. Peavey primarily favors 6L6 power tubes, and at 120 watts, this head could do the job for most of any situation. It was also a precursor to the XXX series, which was a slightly modified version of the Ultra Plus. It featured updated aesthetics, including a metal faceplate akin to the Mesa triple rectifier. Peavey has since come out with the Triple X2, which features switchable power tubes from the stock of EL34s to 6L6s. The 5150 was unleashed in 1992 after a 2-year collaboration between the creative mind of amp designer James Brown and guitarist Eddie Van Halen. Featuring 2 channels, a 120-watt all-tube 6L6 power section, and a shared EQ, the 5150 was able to produce a variety of rock and metal tones. The rhythm channel could be set clean or crunchy, but the lead channel is what this amp was famous for. With its super high gain sound, it could be used for almost anything from tight and aggressive metal riffs to blistering lead tones. This led to the 5152 with separate EQs for each channel, which made the amp even more versatile. In 2004, Eddie Van Halen parted ways with Peavey, and the amp was rebranded as the 6505 and 6505 Plus, along with the 6534 and the 6534 Plus, which feature an EL34 power section for a more British flavor. In 1995, Peavey released their new Trans-Tube series, which was built on the early solid-state technology using their practice amps. This technology was employed in the unique Dweezil Zappa-designed Wiggy amp, among others, such as the Viper and the Bandit series. In 2004, the company started manufacturing many of their products overseas. In 2014, Peavey closed its UK distribution and manufacturing operations, citing the fact that lower costs and advanced techniques of Chinese manufacturing had rendered it unsustainable. That same year, Peavey closed its A Street plant in Meridian, Mississippi, and laid off nearly 100 employees. And if you found this video interesting, check out these other videos on Soldano, Orange, and Fender amps as well. I want to thank everyone for joining me on this fascinating history of Peavey amplification. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been Damon D. One World, One Rock.